the oil lamp, and the gatekeeper. On a small hill outside the city, there stood an old, quiet house surrounded by nature. Living there was an elderly man named Finn, who had once worked as a gatekeeper at a prestigious school in the city. After retiring, he moved to the countryside to enjoy a peaceful, simple life. Every morning, Finn would wake up early to make tea and tend to his little garden filled with herbs and wildflowers. Children from the village often visited to hear his stories about the old days when he guarded the school gates. Whenever he spoke, his eyes sparkled like a small oil lamp, warm and full of life. Although he lived alone, Finn never felt lonely. The villagers treated him like family. They came to him for advice, asked him to babysit, or simply sat by him for tea and conversation. Life flowed gently, day by day. One day, a violent storm swept through the village. The wind howled, thunder roared, and the entire village lost power for 3 days. On the first night of the blackout, Finn rummaged through his storage and found an old oil lamp, something he hadn't used in years. He cleaned off the dust, filled it with oil, and lit it. To his surprise, the flame that flickered to life wasn't ordinary. It shimmered like a golden sunset and gave off a scent of pine and jasmine. Then, through the soft smoke, a young man in a white robe appeared. The man smiled and said, "Old gatekeeper, you've lived your life in service of others. Tonight, I grant you a gift. This lamp will give you 3 wishes. But be warned, each wish will give you what you want, but may also take something you didn't realize you valued." Finn was stunned. He thought he was dreaming, but the lamp in his hands felt more real than anything else in his quiet life. The next morning, Finn woke up in the body of a 30-year-old man. His mind was still his own, but his body was strong and agile. The village buzzed with curiosity. Some didn't recognize him, but the children still followed him like always. He took the chance to relive the things he had missed due to age. Long hikes, biking through forests, even joining the village race and winning first place. But slowly he began to notice something. The younger he felt physically, the less patient and peaceful he became. The quiet afternoon teas disappeared. Conversations with the elderly villagers no longer interested him. He found himself drifting away from the things that once brought him peace. One evening, he lit the lamp again. "I want to become the richest man in this region," he said, though he wasn't entirely sure why. The next morning, a mine of precious stones appeared on his land. People from all over came flocking. He was on TV, invited to fancy events, showered with gifts. He bought a grand house, hired staff, got new clothes, and a shiny new car. But something strange began to happen. The villagers started to distance themselves. They no longer came by for tea, didn't invite him to festivals, and no longer asked for advice. One day, a child who used to call him Grandpa passed by and bowed politely, but the warmth in her eyes was gone. Finn realized that he felt lonelier now than when he was truly alone. On the night of a full moon, Finn lit the lamp once more. The flame no longer shimmered. The man in white appeared again, but this time, his smile had faded. "Have you learned anything?" he asked. Finn paused before replying. "I used to be happy with nothing more than trust, love, and the laughter of children. I don't need youth, wealth, or power. I just want to live as myself, among those I care about." The man nodded silently. The next morning, Finn woke up in his old body, in his old house, with the fog of dawn gently resting over his small garden. The lamp was gone. But then came a knock at the door. A little girl stood there with a basket. "Mom said you might not have eaten yet. We just baked these." Finn smiled, poured some tea, and began telling her the story of the magical lamp. From that day on, Finn never lit another lamp, only the fire in his hearth and the warm glow in the eyes of those who visited. When asked whether he regretted his wishes, he would smile and say, "Not at all. Through them, I learned that happiness doesn't come from what we gain, but from what we cherish." His story spread across the village. Each year, on the anniversary of the blackout, villagers gathered at his home, lit paper lanterns, shared stories, and celebrated what they called the Day of Happiness. Moral of the story: true happiness doesn't come from youth, wealth, or status. It comes from gratitude, connection, and genuine love between people. Sometimes we think we need more, but often, the only thing we really need is to appreciate what we already have.